Tonight, the Cashew South MP says the Prime Minister's controversial statement about teenage mothers is just the latest in a string of irresponsible statements made by him in the past. The National Security and Justice Minister believes the island is on the cusp of an escalation in crimes targeting law enforcement, legislators, and even journalists. And after 45 years of existence, is this the end of the road for the Cashew's Comprehensive Secondary School?
Nobody has discussed with me as the principal anything about the closure of the school.
We have the details of these stories and more coming up.
This is the Hot 7 Nightly News with Lovelace and Amy Joseph.
Good night. It is Friday the 10th of May 2019. Welcome to the Hot 7 TV Nightly News. We're on Flow Channel 117, also being simulcast on Kiss FM 105.5 and 105.9, on our website www.caribbeanhottv.com, and of course on our free Caribbean Hot FM mobile app. I'm lovely St. Amy Joseph. Thank you for joining us. Member of Parliament for Castries South, Dr. Ernest Hilaire, is taking the Prime Minister to task for his recent statements which align single-parent households with the proliferation of crime and violence on island. In an exclusive interview with Hot 7 TV, Dr. Ernest Hilaire expressed much concern about the Prime Minister's logic. Solange Alfred begins our reporting.
Single mothers and fathers are being singled out as the main cause for high levels of criminal elements in St. Lucia. This was the drawn conclusion after recent sentiments expressed by Prime Minister Alan Shastney. The PM has been taken to task by a number of women rights advocacy officials. Now adding his voice to the outrage is Parliamentary Rep for Castries South, Dr. Ernest Hilaire, who says this is not the first time the PM's statements has shown his distorted views.
You want to be generous to him and said that he did not explain it properly. You probably want to be generous to him. But you find it difficult to be generous to him because it's not the first time he has said it. He previously told Timothy Polio in an interview that he even believes we can legislate to prevent young women from keeping children when they have children. And I can show you that interview where he virtually said, you know, if you do it once and you're under 18 and then you have a second child, we should pass laws virtually to prevent you from keeping that child. So it's not the first time he has said it. He's repeatedly said it. So it's not a question of he misspoke or that he's not explaining himself properly, because the first time he said it, he was condemned. He said it the second time, he was condemned. And he's saying it a third time. So it leads you to believe that he knows what he's talking about and he holds dear to those views.
One must tread lightly into understanding the cause of adverse situations, says Hilaire. He notes there may be an association to single parenting and crime. However, he says not identifying the root cause of single parenting will only leave the country addressing the symptoms rather than working towards a cure for the issue.
There is the argument about nature versus nurture. Is it your nature or is it you are nurtured into your behavior? And I think overwhelmingly the evidence says it is more nurture that causes social problems than nature that causes social problems. So we have to find out what's causing it. And I believe, from my experience, as somebody growing up from an area that was challenged too, and from my own activism over many, many years, it is not single parent families, you know, with multiple children, fathers, that causes, you know, crime in this country. I think the less opportunities you have in life for your own social advancement, the less opportunities to obtain a level of education, the less circumstances you have in terms of the support for families to raise children in a particular way. I believe, you know, that among other factors cause an environment where crime will thrive.
Furthermore, Dr. Hilaire shines a light on a matter which he says is of great concern on the topic of addressing crime in St. Lucia.
But which is right and which is wrong? The person who under-invoices and cheats the government of tens of thousands of dollars and is made to settle it administratively, or the young man who goes to hold up, you know, a Chinese restaurant, whatever. Both are wrong. Both are wrong. Now, one, he comes from a family, the ideal family in the eyes of some people, But the other one comes from a single parent family. So what do we say then? These are the criminals. And they're from single parent families. But the one who defrauds the government of $40,000, $50,000, just like he defrauds the Chinese restaurant of money, this one defrauds the government. But he's not seen as a criminal. And he gets away. You ever hear of white-collar crime being persecuted in St. Lucia? You don't ever hear that. So when people start talking about, single-parent families and, multiple children mothers, it reflects the right-wing, conservative, elitist understanding of crime.
Another argument raised in regards to the Prime Minister's statements was the plight of single parents, relying on $200 from family court, to which Hilaire observes is a double-ended sword for a struggling father unable to pay and facing jail time, and a dependent mother figuring out how to make ends meet. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Solange Alfred.
Thank you, Solange. Senator Herman Gill Francis holds responsibility for the Justice and National Security Ministries. He says legislators need to be all in when it comes to the fight against crime. But according to him, unfortunately, it seems that many are content to bury their heads in the sand like the proverbial ostrich. In an interview with Hot 7 News, he stated that while he expects to come under fire for saying it, he believes that St. Lucia is on the cusp of an escalation in crimes targeting law enforcement, legislators, and even journalists. He says more severe punishment should be enforced for gun crimes before the country descends into total chaos.
One prison officer was shot. Police officers have been killed. And I'm telling persons that the time is fast approaching, that the politicians, the magistrates, the judges, the court officials, the journalists, the opposition members are going to be in trouble. These persons are going to be targeted. So we're not immune to the madness that's happening now.
The minister says the entire country needs to wake up to the reality of crime and lenient penalties.
I know I'm going to get myself in trouble for saying it, but I know for a fact that is what is happening. Okay, I pass certain places, there are parties going on, river bashes and everything, and people are firing bullets left, right, and center, and police officers are there. 2 police officers are there, but you think these 2 police officers can handle that crowd? That's what's happening. And if the police officers are good enough to actually get that individual, risk their lives to get that individual, bring him to court, $500, which is peanuts for these guys, okay? Because it's a lucrative trade.
That was Justice and National Security Minister, Senator Herman Gill Francis. The Canadian High Commissioner to St. Lucia says the Canadian government will support whatever decision the government of St. Lucia makes with respect to its education sector, and in particular the fate of the Castries Comprehensive Secondary School. Meanwhile, Infrastructure Minister and Castries North MP Stevenson King says there is still hope that the Castries Comprehensive Secondary School will be left standing. For her part, the principal of the school says, "Don't get carried away by speculation."
Prime Minister Alan Shastny ignited a firestorm last year when he indicated that the government was exploring a relocation of the Castries Comprehensive Secondary School. According to the Prime Minister, an evaluation had determined that the government would have to spend more than $13 million to repair the school. He said the billion-dollar question was whether they should just build another school and whether the current location is suitable. The school is located in the Castries North constituency, represented by Stevenson King. At the 45th anniversary of the institution on Friday, he spoke to what the future holds for Castries Comprehensive Secondary School, indicating that hope is alive for continuity at the institution.
There's always been hope for the school. I'm not one who believes that there's never hope. I'm always of the opinion that there is hope. There what I should say, ideas of economic activity. There are concerns of what seemed to have been the deterioration of the infrastructure at the school, but it just says that, like every other public infrastructure, that if we don't maintain, we cannot preserve, or we cannot maintain the life of those institutions. So there is definitely hope.
The Canadian High Commissioner to St. Lucia says her government has no say in the matter of relocation or no relocation. She says that is the prerogative of the government.
We will support the decision of the government. We think this school has produced a lot, is a very important school for St. Lucia, but it's really up to the government of St. Lucia to decide the future of the education system in St. Lucia.
Meanwhile, the principal of the school, Marva Daniels, says quite frankly she's tired of the rumors and speculation given the absence of any sort of official discussion on this matter.
Persons have posed the question of the closure of the school, and like I have responded before, I will again state emphatically that nobody has discussed with me as the principal anything about the closure of the school. So if it is to happen, I am certain that there should be, of course, proper dialogue, engagement of all the stakeholders. And this is how the Ministry of Education operates. The mandate of the Minister of Education is to engage persons in dialogue, consult, and of course, together we can seek to remedy any situation. And this has not happened.
For its part, the group of CCSS alumni is vehemently opposed to relocation of the Castries Comprehensive Secondary School.
Following a recent social media post on the official Facebook page of the Office of the Prime Minister updating the public on the extent of the Grindberg situation, one member of the opposition has spoken out amidst the unearthed 19-year-old matter and says the focus is being shifted from the Pajoa controversy, which he says is no comparison to the Grindberg situation. Solange Alfred reports.
A 19-year-old case against the island by RSM Production Company and its principal, Jack Grindberg, has been resurrected following a ruling by the International Center for Settlement of Investment Disputes, ICSID. The St. Lucian public was dutifully updated on the Grindberg matter in a post on the official Facebook page of the Office of the Prime Minister. The many layers of the case were peeled back for public consumption and sparked a response from member of the opposition, Dr. Ernest Hilaire, who says the matter simply boiled down to the government having to defend itself.
The government of St. Lucia did not go about and initiated legal action against Grindberg. He decided to initiate legal action, and you have a responsibility to defend yourself. And in a sense, what the government of St. Lucia sought to do was to defend itself. Of course, there was a situation where a previous ruling had required Mr. Grindberg to deposit monies in order for the case to go ahead, because the argument had been made that he is a notorious person for not paying debts. And if St. Lucian government should win the case, as the government expected, they would want to know that the costs can be recovered. I think it was on 3 different occasions he was given a deadline to pay the costs, which he did not do, to put the monies forward, which he did not do. As a result, there was a ruling that the case was virtually dismissed and with prejudice.
An appeal by Jack Grindberg after the initial ruling opened the door for the ad hoc committee to rule that the cost covering the members' fees and expenses, the ICSID administrative fees and other directed expenses as determined by the ICSID Secretariat shall be borne on the basis of 1/3 to be paid by St. Lucia and 2/3 by RSM.
But he has to pay it for the case to go ahead, because the point is he does not want to put monies forward for the case to be heard. Of course, he puts forward cases, you are forced to defend it, and when you win, you can't recover your monies. So in a sense, one can argue that the appeal court made it a little fair, in a sense, by requiring him to pay a little less and both parties to put something on the table, because there's always a likelihood of any judgment to be made any particular way. But what's instructive is that the courts upheld the view that the case should only be heard if he puts down a deposit.
Comments flooding the social media page where the update was posted drew comparison to the recent revelation of the Pajoa letter and the Grindberg situation, to which Hilaire says the two matters could not be more different.
The fact is, the Grindberg agreement was signed by the Prime Minister of the country. The Pajoa letter was signed by a minister, who does not have the authority to sign letters of that nature? The Minister of Finance should sign those letters. Those letters don't even have to come to Parliament, you know. It doesn't have to come to Parliament. These are, you know, at the level of the ministerial responsibility. The minister who signed that letter does not have the legal capacity to sign that letter. So let's examine that. If he does not have the legal capacity to sign that letter, what is the Prime Minister doing about it? You're talking about 60-odd million US dollars. When a minister in your government, imagine your Prime Minister, you alone have the authority to sign those letters. And a minister of yours signs a letter for some persons who don't have any track record, no involvement in financial services, to raise 60-odd million US dollars for the country. What are you going to do about it? And then when the same Prime Minister says, well, the reasons stated in that letter, I don't know about that because we already have money for those matters. We already have money for St. Jude's and we already have money for the CCTV system. So you, the Prime Minister, is hearing and seeing a letter that one of your ministers signed that he has no authority to sign. And secondly, he's signing it for projects that you, unknown to the nation, already have the money for it. What are you going to do about that? Nothing?
In a nutshell, the island has spent a total of US $2 million in the defense against the claim brought by Jack Greinberg. On another note, no official yes or no answer has been given as to the authenticity of the Padjoa letter being signed by Minister Guy Joseph. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Solange Alfred.
This is the Hot 7 Nightly News. Still to come, high-tech CCTV cameras are up. How much of your St. Lucian history do you know? And the sweet sounds of Ave Jazz take over. That and more coming up after the break.